Hi everyone, thanks so much for visiting my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm Carol and I'm so glad that you stopped by. I hope you will consider subscribing. For the rest of you, thanks for joining me once again for another video. So today we are going to be canning up Asian pears. Now I have a couple of Asian pear trees and this is the first year that we've got anything worth doing something with. So I'm going to preserve them. We are going to can them up. The thing you need to know about Asian pears is that they are not as acidic as, say, Bartlett pears or red pears or other pears, so we must acidify them. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're just going to use some bottled lemon juice in each jar, just like you would with when you preserve tomatoes. But I'll go over that here in a little bit. But we're also going to be preserving them in a delicious spiced syrup. I'm going to be making a medium syrup, and I'm going to jazz it up a little bit with some fresh ginger, some vanilla bean, and we're going to put a star anise, one pod, in each jar to make it pretty and to add some more flavor. Now for the ginger, we're just going to infuse the ginger flavor into our syrup. Ginger, because it is a fresh herb, we don't want to leave it in the jar, as anything fresh like that can throw off the pH of your jar, making it potentially unsafe. So I wouldn't leave it in the jar, but I've got about 5 1-inch pieces that I'm going to just put in my syrup, let it simmer together just to add some flavor to the syrup, along with my vanilla bean pod, and just infuse some flavor, and then we're going to fish those things out. So just an FYI on that, I would not leave the ginger in and can it that way. We're just going to infuse flavor into our syrup. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to start by making our syrup. So I have 5 1/4 cups of water. Like I said, this is going to be a medium syrup. You could also do this in a light or extra light syrup. To that, we are going to add 2 1/4 cups of sugar. We're going to add 5 pieces of fresh ginger. They're about 1 inch each, or 1 inch each. And then for the vanilla bean, I split it in half and I have scraped out some of the caviar. And then we're just going to add that pod to our syrup. I'm going to turn our heat onto a medium high. I'm going to give that a stir, and I'm going to bring that up to a nice simmer. I'm going to let it simmer until the sugar dissolves all the way, and until I want to simmer it long enough that the ginger flavor is infused into the syrup. So we're going to let it simmer for about 15 minutes or so, but we do not want to lose any of our liquid. So it's going to be important that when you simmer it, you put a lid on it. So while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and peel and cut up our pears. Okay, while our syrup is infusing, for our pears, I'm just going to peel them. I'm just using a vegetable peeler. And then once I peel them, I'm just going to cut them in half and take out the core. And then I'm going to let them sit in an ascorbic acid solution to keep them from browning. And I will leave instructions on how to do the ascorbic acid solution in the description box, but basically I just used a fruit preserver and added 3 tablespoons of fruit preserver to half a gallon of cold water. And that's all there is to it, to prepping your pears. You could also slice them if you prefer, but I'm going to leave mine in halves. Okay guys, I didn't get as many pears as I thought. Some of my pears were not nice on the inside and had bad spots in them. But I think we have enough to do a decent canning session. So anyway, my syrup has been simmering with the lid on, of course, and I explained why. Now we want to fish out the ginger pieces and our vanilla bean. And then we are going to add our pears to our syrup. And we are going to bring them up to a simmer, and we need to simmer them 5 minutes. Pears must be hot packed. Okay, so just to make this a little bit faster, I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid on, and we're gonna, like I said, bring this up just to a simmer, and then I'll take the lid off and we'll let it simmer very gently for 5 minutes. While that's happening, I'm going to get my steam canner ready. Okay guys, we are all set for canning. I simmered my pears very gently for 5 minutes, so they're thoroughly heated through. I have 3 quarts of simmering water in my steam canner. If you're water bath canning, you want to make sure you have enough water in your canner to cover your jars by at least an inch after you put them in your canner. You want to make sure you start with hot jars. I'm going to be canning in pints, but you can also can these in quarts. For pint jars, we have to add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. If you are canning in quart jars, you need 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. I'm also going to be adding 1 star anise to each jar just to add a little more flavor, make it a little pretty. Star anise is a dried spice, so we're fine with adding it. So we're going to get 2 hot jars and get going here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is ladle in our pears to 1/2 inch headspace. I did quarter some of mine instead of having them. My pears varied in size, so I just tried to do my best to get them roughly the same size. Okay, once you get your pears into about 1/2 inch headspace, we're going to ladle in our syrup, again to 1/2 inch headspace. Then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of bottled lemon juice. You must use bottled lemon juice to control the acid level. We need 1 tablespoon per jar. And then I'm going to add 1 star anise. And then you're going to take a debubbling tool, plastic butter knife, or a chopstick and release your air bubbles. Make sure your pears are covered in syrup. Star anise in there just makes everything pretty. And then once you're happy with your headspace, you want to make sure you've maintained 1/2 inch headspace. You're going to take a paper towel dipped in white vinegar to clean your rims. Then we are going to add our lids. And then add our rings to fingertip tight. And in the canner they go. Okay guys, I got 5 pint jars. I'm pretty happy with that. This is the first year that my tree has produced enough pears to do anything with, so I'm good with that. So we need to put our lid on our canner. We're going to crank up the heat. Again, if you are water bath canning, you want to make sure that you have enough water covering your jars by at least an inch once they're in there. So we're going to bring everything up to a full rolling boil for water bath canning. For steam canning, you have a dial gauge on the top of your canner that will tell you when to start timing. And we are going to process for 20 minutes. If you are canning in quart jars, you're going to process for 25 minutes. Once you hit a full rolling boil or the correct spot on your dial, you want to reduce your heat just to maintain. You don't want your canner boiling too vigorously throughout the whole process. So once you get there, reduce your heat, process for 20 minutes, and when we get there, I'll bring you back. Okay guys, we are all done. I processed for 20 minutes. If you are processing in quarts, you want to process for 25 minutes. And then I turned my canner off and let my jar sit for about 5 minutes in my canner. Anyway, here we are. Look how beautiful they are. Look pretty yummy, right? That syrup is absolutely delicious. I did want to say that if you don't groove on ginger, you can always leave it out. You can reduce the amount of ginger. That was just what I thought would taste good, but it's entirely up to you. You could also add a cinnamon stick. You could infuse some cinnamon flavor into your syrup if you wanted to, or some cloves. And those are dried spices, so those would be fine to add to the jars if you want to do that, just like I did with the star anise. I don't think that one had star anise in it. I didn't put a star anise in all of them, but this one has a little star anise in there. Isn't it pretty? Anyway, you can add whatever dried spices you want. It will not affect the acid level in your jars. Just don't leave the fresh ginger in there. So that was just to infuse flavor into our syrup. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today. Asian pears are totally fine for canning. We just have to acidify them with the lemon juice to make them safe. Again, thanks for joining me, guys. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them for me in the comment section. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.